Why did you write that to begin with? But whatever. I'm not trying to find excuses to dislike this, but they just keep coming up.
The way I fucking hate this man.
One of the worst heroes that I have ever read. I'm like, what are we doing here? Hi, this is Editing Ashley popping in to say that if this is your favorite book of all time, if this is what got you into romance, it's a 5-star, and you cannot hear any shit talking, you cannot hear a single bad word about this, and for some reason the thumbnail and the title did not push you off of watching this video. If you cannot hear a single dissenting opinion, I love you so much. Protect your peace. Just click off the video. I'll see you in my next one. I love you. I love you. I love you. Reading is subjective, and I love that this series worked for you. So hi friends, welcome back to my channel. Today's vlog is going to be an interesting one, and I'm going to tell you right off the bat that I'm going into this with a little bit of bias. In today's vlog, I'm going to be reading the Boys of Tommen, the TikTok's favorite YA romance. I don't really feel like this needs a ton of introduction. I think a lot of people know what this is. It's a YA sports romance situation about two kids in high school. They have like a tumultuous relationship and it's like 800 pages. I am going into this with a bias because I have heard of some things that are present in this book that I already take issue with, some writing choices that I will be sure to call out. Now, I don't know if that was like a Kindle Unlimited situation and then it was edited out once it was actually published, but we're gonna find out. So I plan to read this one and then we'll see about the rest of the series. I think the second book is also about them. So that's kind of two things that I don't love. One being overly long romances. I prefer my contemporary romances to be between like 350, 360 range. And I also don't like reading multiple books about one couple. Like I said, I'm going in with bias. I feel like you should know that up front, but I have been interested with this story, this series, for quite a while. It seems that people have very emotional attachments, very emotional reactions to the book. So I want to see what all the hype is about, and if it's got the stuff that I'm thinking that it does in it, like, I'm gonna tear this book apart. So we'll see, but I would recommend, if you cannot hear any critiques about this, that you just like click off. But if you want to be around for the journey of me possibly discovering my favorite romance of all time,
honey, you've got a big storm coming.
Here we are. So let's start the vlog. Okay, so I am 81 pages into Binding 13. I got this copy from the library, but I am actually reading it on my Kindle because this writing size is just an absolute travesty. But I am this far in, and I'm gonna be completely, totally honest with you. It's not as bad as I was anticipating. I think the intro was a little bit harsh, mostly because I know of some things that are said in the original version of this about people with disabilities, which we don't love, but that has been removed, which, like, why did you write that to begin with? But whatever. But overall, like, this is not good. I'm not liking this at all. I'm specifically not liking Johnny's point of view, which, when you're reading a romance, like, don't you want to like both of them, right? But this is a almost 600 page book, so that could change, but at the moment I'm not liking Johnny, and I don't find Shannon's point of view particularly compelling. Okay, so we start off this book. Let's talk about the characters. We have Shannon, who recently started, I think they live in Ireland. She recently started at Tommen. She has been severely bullied at the public school that she was attending for, like, the system that she was attending for pretty much her whole career. Her parents would move her from, like, public school to public school, but she would just get really bullied no matter where she went. So eventually they enroll her in Tommen, which seems to be like a private school situation, like a preparatory school. I don't know. I'm a public school girl. I've always been public school. I don't know anything about private schools, and I sure don't know anything about private schools in other countries. But from what I gather, this is like a prep school or something along those lines. She is hoping to escape a lot of that bullying that she experienced in public school. Has some friends there, and when she gets to Tommen, it's very regular. Like, nobody's bullying her, nobody's pushing her around. Nobody really cares that she's there except her two friends, and she's slowly starting to build like a group of friends. Comes from a big family. I know just from hearing about this book that her father is very physically abusive. We haven't seen that. We've only had hints of it up until this point, but I do know that there's abuse going on in the home life as well. So she starts going to Tommen. She has these two friends, and she runs into Johnny on the rugby field. He's part of the rugby team. This rugby team is big at this preparatory school or whatever. And he accidentally hits her with a rugby ball, whatever the fuck they use. She gets a concussion, and he's like taking care of her, and that's their introduction. Now, Johnny is a rugby player, and he's like pretty well known in the rugby sphere. He moved from a big city and is now living in this town that's like supposed to be a small town, and he's pretty well known in the rugby area, in the rugby sport in this area. Like, he's already being recruited by some important people, and he's already like played with some pro teams. And he has kind of a douchey personality, I would say. He's very there's just things said in this book, specifically in Johnny's point of view, about women. A lot of like superiority going on with him, and he only cares about, in my opinion, he only cares about Shannon at this point because she's like very, very small and frail, and he's afraid of hurting her, and she needs a protector. I like alpha E men, you know, especially in like Omegaverse and stuff like that. I think it can be fun, and I tend to like the like more stoic hero. I like soft boys as well. I do love me a good cinnamon roll hero, but sometimes I do like an alpha hero as well. But I don't like this form of hero. I do not like the I hate women, but she's really cool. Like, if you're gonna go with the like I hate trope, like he just doesn't get along with people, it has to be everyone, not just women. Like, it's the way that he talks is very degrading for women, in my opinion. He uses female a lot, which like I think in everybody's vernacular is fine, but the way that he's using it is very degrading, and the way that he talks about women is very degrading. There's like weird conversations about like adults being very sexual with him and the other rugby players. That's like a joke, but it's just, it's very creepy, and them hooking up with like older women, like adult women, it being like a funny joke. They're presenting it like they're manipulating these older women when it's very clearly abuse, and I'm not enjoying it. Like, I am a seasoned romance reader. I have read everything under the sun in regards to romance that you could possibly imagine. Bully romance is one of my favorite tropes in romance, so I'm not squeamish about certain things. Like, I'm not squeamish about things that are dark or taboo or things like that. But there's a certain level of writing that feels very intentional with this. This feels very like I hate women, and setting Shannon up to be like not like other girls. I don't like the shaming of women. I don't like the weird conversations around being with older women. I don't like the playboy mentality of like, I hook up with women, but I don't respect them. The thing with this story, specifically with Shannon, and really just the introduction to both characters, is a heavy, heavy info dump. There's been, I'm on page 81, and I would say there's maybe been 5 lines of dialogue in these 81 pages, but you get into the story and it's just like bam, bam, bam. Right away, you're finding just paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs about her life and her feelings and the bullying and her family, and then same with him, like bam, 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 paragraphs and paragraphs of his family and his rugby career and school and his, like, it's just, it's tough. It's tough. Like, I believe that this was written in 2005 or something, and I can see that because I don't think this, if this was published in 2023, So the copyright's 2023, but I don't think this was written in 2023. Well, it couldn't have been, because I know that it was on Kindle Unlimited for a long time. I have come to appreciate certain things in romance. As I've gotten older, there are like certain toxic like motifs that I don't appreciate. Give me an obsessive hero, give me a stalker, give me a bullier, give me all of those things, but at the core I don't want someone who hates women. Like, I don't want to read about that. I don't want to read about a hero that needs to be convinced that women and men are equal. Like, I don't want to read that, and I don't want to read in the head of someone who is so blatantly superior, like someone that so blatantly feels like they're better than everybody else. I'm gonna continue to read it, and I'm hoping that over the chapters and as the story goes on, like, we'll have that redemption. And I'm not against a redemption story, but again, I don't already want to go in not liking the hero. Like, I don't want to go in already thinking the hero hates women. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want him to learn that women are amazing and beautiful and gorgeous and deserve everything. You know, I don't want to read that. So yeah, I'm gonna continue to read. I would like to get through this as fast as possible so that I can get on to the next book. It's not as bad as I thought. I'm glad that there has been some editing. I know the original version, like I said, had a lot of like, on the very first page, it had a very ableist comment, and as a disabled person, like, fuck you. So I'm glad that that was edited out. It was edited out of the Kindle edition as well, I checked. And I'm glad that was edited out, but also, like, do we really need that? You know what I mean? Like, it's such an unnecessary comment. I've been ranting long enough, and I'm only 81 pages in.
Okay, these are two things, just two of the thing Johnny said that I felt like highlighting. Like, they were just, like, beyond, you know? Like, I couldn't just let them pass. Like, pretty was a pussy word used by women and the elderly. And of course. And then he just said, excuse the cat hair. But like, ew.
Okay, and something I forgot to mention. Hi, bud, can you move just a smidge? Okay, well, we're gonna have to hold this. Something I forgot to mention is that he is 17, almost 18, and she just turned 15. And he makes a big fucking deal about this. Like, obviously, in real life, the age gap is a little bit questionable, especially when he turns 18 and she's still 15, and it's like kind of weird, but he makes a huge deal about it. He even like has this whole paragraph in his head when he's asking her age about like, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck kind of thing. And listen, I have read plenty of age gap romances. I've read student-teacher romances. I've read tons of taboo old age gap situations, and I'm not saying that it's like horrible or anything in books, like we're talking about fiction, but I hate constantly talking about it, constantly mentioning it. I want it acknowledged that it's there, but I don't want to like constantly be brought up, or I start getting like the ick, you know what I mean? Like when it starts becoming the whole point of the relationship, I get a little bit like grossed out, and he's obsessed with the fact that she's younger than him. And he, like just now, made a comment about how he doesn't mess with younger girls because of the implication of it, of like what it could do to his life. Not because like it's disgusting and weird and the power dynamic, and it's just odd to like mess with someone that is that much younger than you, but he's like, well, I don't want to ruin my career. So like at 18, 19, you're gonna fuck with a 15-year-old if it doesn't mess with your career. It's just like, I don't know. There are things in age gaps that I'm just not a fan of, and obsession about age is one of them, because I want to feel like in my romance, especially in age gap, that like, okay, take for example Birthday Girl. That is a boyfriend's father romance. It's one of my favorite romances of all time. And Pike is, I think, 30, and Jordan just turned 19 at the beginning of the book. And like that age gap is a little bit, you know, but I truly believe, reading their story, that they are compatible and that they fit and they work together and that they were meant to be together and all of that, because the romance is written so well. I don't know, I don't like him making a thing about her age, and I don't know, you know, it's like, it's weird. And he had this whole speech with his team members about how she's too young for them and make it a whole big deal about it, and it just like, I don't know, you know, I'm not trying to find excuses to dislike this, but they just keep coming up.
This sentence right here. She was a tiny scrap of a girl, all limbs and bones. There were no curves on her, and I doubt she even wore a bra. See, too young, too fucking young. That's weird. That is weird behavior. That is weird. Like, saying that she's underdeveloped because she's... Come on. Am I supposed to take this serious? Chasing gains? I want to die. This is the 6th or 7th time someone has talked to Joey and told him that he's gonna get this one particular girl pregnant and that she's gonna trick him into having a kid with him. Like, this is a woman that he's been having sex with for 8 months at this point, that he continues to have a relationship with, but she's the one trying to trap him. She's the slut, she's the terrible person that's trying to trap him, but he knowingly full well went into a relationship with her, continued to have sex with her, but she's the bad one who's like corrupting him and gonna put a needle in a condom and get herself pregnant. Like, fuck off. This is trying so hard to convince me that Johnny is like a likable person and he's not the person that there's all these rumors and shit about, and I just don't believe it. Like, his own actions just prove that to not be true. So I hate it here so fucking bad. The way I fucking hate this man. I'm like actually convinced that this writer hates women, and this is written by a woman, which is so disappointing and upsetting, because I don't know if she just thinks this is how men think or if this is just like how she thinks, but it's incredibly disgusting and frustrating, and I'm fucking tired of it. Look at Johnny, ever the feminist. Are you fucking kidding me?
Okay, so I am halfway through this, and I have done many clips of why in particular I don't like Johnny and why I think he's a terrible hero, but I thought that at this halfway clip I could try to talk about good things in this. So let me think. I will say that the romance in this is quite cute. Now, she's 15, 16 at the halfway point, and he is 17, and they haven't had anything happen, like, at all. They've gone out a couple of times, like, alone. They've gone out to, like, a movie together, and they've had dinner, and they've been alone a couple of times, but nothing actually romantic has happened, which I personally appreciate. Specifically, Johnny's point of view when he's talking about Shannon is very sweet. He is the obsessive type of hero that I really love, where they just like are completely consumed by the heroine, like completely gone in love, constantly thinking about them, and I love that. It's just the rest of it that I have a problem with, but we know that. I'm not gonna get too deep into it. So I do think that they work well together, just personality wise, and I would like to see them work a little bit more on actually getting to know each other. I think a lot of Johnny's interest in her has to do with the fact that she's not like other girls, and she is small, she's tiny, and she needs protecting. The type of man that Johnny would show up as in a relationship would work well with Shannon's personality. The protective alphaness in Johnny works well with that, where I think that he really values her opinions and he values her beliefs and all of that, but he ultimately cares to protect her in that way, which I think is very lovely for a relation, for someone who has never had that before, for someone who has never had someone looking out for them and had someone that had their back in like a fully whole and complete way. I think with her older brother, he protects her, but he's in the same situation she is, so it's a little bit different. She has this almost outside protector that I think works well with her personality. I'm very conflicted because I really am hating Johnny, and I wish that I've been struggling to to get this clip out because I have trouble identifying what is working for me because there's so much that is so obviously wrong. But there's a feeling you get of just dread of like, this book is taking forever, like I'm struggling to get through it, I can't read it fast, I can't get lost in it, and I'm not really having that issue. Like, I sit down and read and I'm in it, you know. I don't ever have a point where I'm like, man, I wish I wasn't reading this. Like, as much as Johnny is the fucking worst, like one of the worst heroes that I have ever read, I don't feel like this, I'm looking at this from a romance point of view, even though this is so aggressively a romance. Well, even though this is a romance, it's in the romance genre, I'm not looking at it like a romance, and I'm also not reading it like I would read a Kennedy Ryan or a Brittany C. Cherry or any of the romance authors that I turn to that just like have those like heart capturing, those like just, you know, if you're a romance reader, you know what I mean, those romances that just like, they fucking eat you up, they devour you, they just like they just give you all of that good romance feeling. I'm not reading that like this. I'm not reading this for that. I'm not expecting this crazy romance, and I feel like I'm almost reading it like I would read a fan fiction or something like that, where I'm just like literally reading it and I'm enjoying parts of it. Other parts of it I'm like can't stand, but also the can't stand is kind of fun. So After is a perfect example. After. I read After in 2020, so a long time past my teen years, past when I would have really enjoyed the story. I didn't like the earlier books in the series, but the experience of reading After was fun because it's like you're just tearing this shit apart. And there's parts of it that are so fascinating, so interesting that you just want to see where it's going to go. The later parts of the series definitely get very repetitive and kind of annoying. But that first one, there's just like something about it that just grips you. And even if you don't love Tessa, even if you don't love Hardin, even if you don't love the romance and the story and the love story between them, there's something about the story that you just like want to keep reading, and that's how I feel. Like, I am having fun, I think this is a very heavy book. Like, this is not a fun book. Both of them are going through some shit. Like, obviously Shannon is being abused, and Johnny has a lot of like abandonment and emotional stuff that he's dealing with, in addition to like an injury and all of that. So there's a lot there emotionally, but in general, I would say it's an easy read. It's easy to get lost in the series, in the book. So while I have scenes where I'm like, I fucking hate this, and I hate everybody who made this popular, I kind of get it, not from a romance point of view, just from a book point of view. I don't know, I'm very conflicted, and I feel like you can get that through. The answer is I'm gonna finish it out, and we'll talk, and then I'm probably going to take a break from the series. That's the plan. But let me finish this out. I have 300 pages left. Let me finish this out. We'll talk about it, and we'll go from there.
Fuck off.
Alright, so I finished Binding 13, and I don't know if there's anything that I can say new than what I have already said about this. I'm sure you can tell by all of the things that I have said what I gave this. It's really sad that we're here because, honestly, if you took out all of the raging misogyny, all of the hatred towards women, all of the shaming of women and not like other girls, I would really, really like this romance. I think it's sweet. Johnny is obsessed and protective and very caring towards her, and I would like the romance, but I cannot get past a man who hates women. I can't do it. I can't do it. The opinions in here are gross, and I don't get the point. And it reminds me of the early 2000s women hating not like other girls trope, and I hate it. I don't think it's romantic. It's not even like Shannon also has these thoughts. With stories like this, in particular like early 2000s, we would hear a ton about, you know, the mean girls in school, and it was all very much like low-key hatred of other women, but it was always from the girl's point of view. She was always like the skater girl. She didn't like skirts, and she didn't wear makeup, and like that sort of internalized misogyny, instead of men straight up saying stuff like this. I can't justify that sort of personality in a hero just because I really like the romance, and just because I really like the way he treats the heroine. Because just because she's not like other women doesn't mean that he respects women. And that's a big thing for me. You can do whatever the fuck you want. You can murder people. You can be in the mafia. In fiction, you can be a stalker. You can drink blood. You can be into kinky shit. I don't give a flying fuck what you do. But if you do not respect women, if you do not view women as equals, I cannot support you as a character in your romance. I just can't do it. I just can't do it. Look at a relationship and be like, this is swoon worthy. This is amazing. This is like not my new book boyfriend. I don't know what the fuck anybody sees in this man. I'm sorry. And I think a lot of people talk about like the taboo of this relationship. Honestly, when they don't do anything, they have one makeout session, she's 16, he's 17. It's a little bit different than like her being 15 for a majority of the story and him being 18. I feel like that dynamic is different. 16 and 17, like that could be the difference in age in a school year, you know what I mean? Like it's a little bit, it feels a little bit different. That's not a problem in my opinion. I know that the later books in the series are obviously older, like they've been written more recently, so I would be interested to see how that has changed over time. But people reading this in 2024, I don't get. 2023, 2024, I don't get, and I don't get people who don't see the glaring issues with it. Like, I get that everybody reads things for their own reason, and some people are able to overlook those things, and I'm not like trying to say that there's anything wrong with the people that love this book. I want to murder every single person that has made this popular, but I am not saying that I'm not like passing judgment on you if you like this book. I just personally don't understand how anybody could read this and think that he is like a good hero. I don't know if people think that the romance overshadows like every other part of his personality or what, or like think that he's just like a damaged hero. But I have read and loved many a damaged hero, and they don't think that women are inferior. That's not like a damaged hero thing. So I think I'm gonna take some space, because the second book I know is about the same couple, which I already don't love. And the fact that this was left off with the cliffhanger that it was left off with, I'm a little pissed off, to be honest. So those are my thoughts on Binding 13. I'm gonna take a break. It's gonna be like 2 seconds for you, but I'm gonna take a break and we'll return a little bit later on, and maybe my feelings have changed. Like, this is my very raw opinion, so maybe I'll be feeling a little differently down the road when I go into book 2, but I'm gonna take a pause on this and come back. So all right, so let's talk about book 2 in this series, which follows the same couple, Keeping 13. The audiobook is in 2 parts, and each one is 16+ hours. Honestly, the audiobook is god-awful. I would not recommend.
Her eyes were wide and full of tears. No, Johnny, no!
If you can read it with your eyeballs, maybe do that. Or maybe don't read the book at all. I don't know. This one is an improvement over the first book, only because there has been pretty minimal interaction between the main characters and like other people, mainly Johnny and like other women, and so a lot of like the misogyny and issues that I had in the first one aren't super present. Like, they're definitely still there when he's like with the boys, like having his sports talk and stuff, but mostly it's been focusing on the heroine's family, the fallout of the end of the first one. However, I still have a lot of issues with the length of the novel, 32 hours or something like that, which for a contemporary romance is just absolutely unhinged, unnecessary. There have been authors who have written similar romances, similar stories dealing with similar issues, that have been able to beautifully capture the romance and the love story and get through the characters' like traumas and work through their issues and have them come together in far less pages without so much trauma porn. I feel like the main character is like living in a state of fear because of her abusive family. I'm not like, I like the romance. Like, I liked it in the first one, I'm liking it in the second one. I think they work well together. They are very sweet. It's not a terrible book. The length is really, really unnecessary. And I think that's like the crux of it for the second one. I'm kind of struggling to get through it, even with the audiobook, and I'm definitely not planning on moving on with the series. Like, I don't know if you could tell, but I'm not really enjoying it all of that much. This was like after or something that was super popular in like 2015. I could understand. But this is this isn't like newly written, but this just got new eyes on it, and like TikTok a little bit blew it up, but I'm not really understanding why. I think if you want to read just like deeply emotional and traumatic shit, there's so many better books out there, and they just explore all of these themes in way better ways. I'm gonna probably wrap up the book and give you guys my final thoughts. I have zero interest in reading about the couple from the second and third book, or third and fourth book. Seems like each couple is getting 2 books, and each book is like 600+ pages. And like I said, that is just not very respectful of the reader's time, in my opinion. And alright, so I finished the 36-hour audiobook of Keeping 13. And I'm gonna be so for real with you for a second. I don't know what the fuck this book is. Like, I don't know why. Okay, let me preface this by saying I have been reading romance for over a decade. I'm a seasoned romance reader. I have read, in my opinion, some of the best romance books of all time. But I understand why new readers, aka people on TikTok, would really love this, especially if you're someone who read fantasy your whole life, you're used to the really long books, and you have never read like romance before. Maybe you've read something that had a romance in it and you really loved it, but you didn't get enough of the romance that you really wanted. I can see this being something that you enjoy because the drama is there. In my opinion, it's trauma, not drama, and it's a little bit too much, but I can see why new readers would really like this. And this is a common complaint that I have with contemporary, and why I pretty much stopped reading contemporary altogether. These 2 books being over 600 pages is the most ridiculous, asinine, annoying thing that I have ever seen. that's a little, that's over dramatic, but it doesn't respect the reader's time. It doesn't respect that the reader is there to form a connection and understand a romance. So the author feels the need to have over 700 pages of bullshit to get you to really love these characters and like root for their romance. I would hazard to guess that if you cut all the bullshit out, that I would have loved this. I've said numerous times in this video that I enjoyed the romance. I think it's very, very sweet. They work well together. The things that Johnny does for Shannon and the ways that he shows up for her are amazing. However, all of the other bullshit is too much. It ruins the book. Like, the last 60% of this book, I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, what are we doing? It was just thing after thing after thing. And I'm not a big fan of trauma for the sake of trauma. And that's what it felt like here. Like, I don't know. I don't want to get into it too deep because I do feel like this is the second book in a series. If you want to read it for some reason after I've shit talked it, I don't want to spoil anything for you, but it's a heavy book. Like, you can look up the trigger warnings and see that it's a heavy book, but I don't agree with the way that it was handled. I can recommend so many authors that do things like this just better. One of them being Kennedy Ryan. Honestly, read the Hoop series if you want stories like this. Well, really most Kennedy Ryans. Read the first book in the Hoop series if you want a story like this that's just better. Or if you want It Ends With Us but better. Just read the first book in the Hoop series, and that's like my response to this whole thing. My intention was to read the entire series, at least what's out for you guys. But the idea of reading each couplet of books being about the same love story and then being over 600 pages makes me want to bleach my eyeballs. I'm just gonna leave the video here. I don't think I need to expound upon my opinions of this book series. I, again, can understand why new readers would really like it. I think the romance is great. It's just the exterior and the misogyny and all the bullshit that comes along with it that, in my opinion, ruins everything. I might pick up a story down the line from this author, but I have no intention to at the moment. I have so many good authors on my TBR that I'm so excited to get to that I don't need this one. That being said, if you really enjoyed this and you for some reason made it all the way to the end and you want to talk down below about why you love it, I would love to talk about it. I am all here for reading being subjective, reading being what you make it. If you go into a novel and you love it and I hate it, it's okay, right? It's okay to have different opinions. I could have picked this book up at a different time and had a completely different opinion, but this is just how these stories are hitting now. So let's talk about it down below. All of my social medias, aka I really just have Goodreads, is linked down below. Don't forget to subscribe if you're looking for more content like this from me. Check out my backlist. It's varied in all the types of different content you could possibly imagine. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in my next one.